Hello, my name is Dora Herrera, and I will share with you our research prepared for this conference about future orientation, well-being, life purpose, and academic performance in private university students from Lima, Peru. This study has been developed in the educational field because we consider that education is one of the most powerful and proven vehicles for sustainable development of a society. And we were interested in investigating in youngsters because in Peru, we have almost 30% of our national population who are youngsters. And we know that university students are part of the human capital, which is essential for human, social, and economic development of countries and regions. Our study is working with different variables, and we especially work with future orientation, which is a multidimensional variable in which the content of the future is underlined. The cognitive representation is the starting point, and it's induced by motivational forces and results in behaviors. Future orientation is antecedent of positive psychological functioning or well-being. This has been proven empirically, and that's the reason why we selected 3 positive variables, and we related them with future orientation in 2 domains that are important for youngsters: career domain and family domain.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Lira, and we will go through the methods for this research. The participants were 295 university students that had a mean age of 21 years, plus minus 2.5. Their ages ranged between 18 to 30. They were 62% female, and they were mostly from mid and high SCS. We used pen and paper administration during class time. And participants were reminded of the ethics. Their participation was voluntary, and they signed informed consents. Most of our sample, as we can see in this plot, were female, and most of them had 2 parents with college degrees. Regarding our measures, we used a standard ad hoc questionnaire regarding sex, age, parental education, religiosity, and scholarship status. For future orientation, we used a perspective-like questionnaire developed by Seguiner, Nurmi, and Poole in 1991. We used a 5-point Likert scale. And even though the scale has 99 items in total, we used 35 items for career and 33 items for family domain, as specified in the manual. This measure has 7 subscales for 2 different life domains. So that's a total of 14 scales. Value, expectancy, and control make the motivational scale. Hopes and fears make the cognitive scale. And exploration and commitment make the behavioral scale. That's 7 different subscales, but for the career and the family domains makes 14 in total. And it's been translated to Spanish and adapted to the Peruvian context. For flourishing, we used Diener et al. Scale from 2010. It's a 7-point Likert scale with 8 items that conform a single factor, and it was translated to Spanish and adapted to Peru by Casareto and Martinez. For psychological well-being, we used the psychological well-being scale by Riff in 1989. It's a 6-point Likert scale with 14 items per scale. Even though the scale has 6 scales, we just used the purpose subscale. It was translated to Spanish and adapted to the Peruvian context by Cubas in 2003. And finally, we used academic achievement as an outcome variable, and we used the self-reported weighted average. Students had this information available online, so they could access that through their smartphones when they were answering the questionnaire. And these self-reported grades tend to correlate closely with school records, up to R equals 0.90 in college students. So for our analyses, we used structural equation and modeling with weighted least squares estimator with mean and variance correction. And that is the appropriate estimator to use when we have Likert scales that are not normally distributed or are not continuous. The benefits of using structural equation modeling is that it allows us to control for unreliability and run complex models like the one we have here.
Hello, my name is Hasuli Chalen. We will go through the results now. The fit measurements and reliability on both career and family domain models were accurate. Some items were dropped due to low loadings in both models. Descriptive results showed our sample scored high in future orientation scales, especially in the career domain, flourishing, and life purpose. Correlation showed high relations between expectant subscales from the career domain and two of the dependent variables tested, flourishing and life purpose, in the same pattern. Several moderate correlations were found in both domains. We also found small group differences. Religious participants tend to score higher in family future orientation subscales of value, internal control, and fears, and also in flourishing and life purpose skills. Students who do not receive financial support to pay for their studies score higher in value and exploration towards a career, and also exploration and expectance in the family domain. Being an older student is related to exploring and commit more to a career. And finally, students who have both parents who continued studies after secondary school scored higher in career domain. The same model with career future orientation as a predictor variable explained around 57% of the variance for each flourishing and life purpose scales. Coefficients of future orientation career follow a similar pattern. Expectance, internal control, hopes, and exploration relates to a positive variability in the two dependent variables mentioned, in general exhibiting higher variance explained, while fears, commitment, and value relate negatively and with smaller coefficients. For academic achievement, 12.3% of the variability was explained. Commitment was negatively associated with it. We observed that expectance is a consistent predictor for all three dependent variables, and there are several significant variables. Regarding family domain, although it had weaker coefficients compared to future career orientation, this model also showed high and moderate relations with the variability in flourishing and life purpose. Again, expectance is important to explain the variability in two of the three dependent variables. Commitment with one's own future family relates itself negatively to flourishing and life purpose. This might be due to the academic urban university context the sample is immersed in. In general terms, the fact that for the sample coefficients scored higher in the career domain might be because of the developmental period the participants were going through. Previous research shows that one of the most important developmental tasks for youth is precisely finding their life purpose, which might be linked to career future orientation. After analyzing the overall results, we conclude the following. Expectance characterizes itself as the most solid variable in both career and family domains to explain the variability in flourishing and life purpose, which suggests that optimism is extremely important for a bright future. Both measurement models, which consider future orientation as a predictor variable, showed an adequate fit, and they did explain highly the variability in flourishing and life purpose. Nevertheless, the model with career future orientation as a predictor variable was remarkable. 12.3% of the variability in academic achievement was explained by career future orientation. Difference within groups were small. Within limitations of further research, due to the nature of our study design and because the participants were from a single university, the possibility of the results being generalized to other populations is low. In this regard, we recommend performing experimental and longitudinal research with bigger and more diverse samples in order to evaluate the effect and evolution of future orientation. Connected to the previous point, further studies evaluating validity, reliability, and invariance evidence of the instrument with bigger and diverse samples in Peruvian and Latin American populations are needed. Two of the dependent variables evaluated were closely related, actually, well-being and life purpose. So we think it will be also important to explore how future orientation relates to each other separately. Thank you.